Final score: Gonzaga 94, Kentucky 59. Yikes! Kentucky now 5-4 overall, 0-4 in quadrant one, with 0 wins over teams in the top 185 of the net. Best win at home over Tennessee Tech, which is 188th in the net. All 5 of Kentucky's wins fall in quadrant 4.
Oh, God.
Is Mark Pope going to pull out of this, or are we going to have to hear his own fans boo him all season? Because that's mean.
It's deserved. He would agree with it, by the way, that it's deserved.
I mean, it didn't hurt.
Gonzaga, we will get to you before we get out of this segment here, but we have to talk about Kentucky. Frankly, maybe it's an upset that it took us this long to talk about Kentucky. It did happen Friday night. This is the most significant result of the weekend, I think, behind Iowa State doing what it did at Purdue. And if you want to make the case that it's actually Kentucky over Iowa State because Kentucky still hasn't beaten a high major team, I'm not here to tell you you're necessarily wrong. The dispiriting thing about this was you come off the ugly but close home win Tuesday against UNC, and then you turn around and just get sliced and diced by Gonzaga. Like, down early, down big, body language was bad. You had Boogie Cousins tweeting the team doesn't play like it has heart. That's a paraphrase. I don't have the tweet up in front of me right now. But you've got a very prominent alum taking to social media before the game is over. Poke gets asked about it in the postgame press conference afterward, as he should. And then he had a good line. I'm pissed at the coach too. But I sent it out on Friday, and I mean it. Kentucky is the most overrated, overpaid, and disappointing team in college basketball through the first 5 weeks of the season. There have been some other disappointing teams. None of them were ranked in the preseason top 10 that have the most expensive roster in college basketball. That's where we are with this. And it is wild to see how violently this is swung on Pope at this point. Jalen Lowe did return, non-factor. He's going to have to ease back in, whatever that means. Ortega Owe had 16 points. But if you watch the game, like it was, not effective. It didn't even matter. Cam Williams started 0 points. There's a thought that there's just too many guys in the rotation. I saw Greg Anthony made a point on TNT. I guess it would have been late Friday. I think maybe it was Saturday, where he was essentially saying when you have a rotation that you want to make 10, 11 deep, and now you're paying all these college players all this money, and there's certain expectations and role allocation and what you're asked to do, settling into a role versus what you think you're going to do, given how much you might be paid relative to the rest of your teammates or rest of other friends you might have in college basketball that are on other teams, and you believe you know what they're being paid. It was a good point by Greg. I think that he can. I think he can turn it around. Our poll from earlier in the show was which team has the best resume, and Arizona beat that narrowly over Duke. And I know we've got a current one here that we'll have to get to in a few on, will Kentucky make the tournament in 2026? I'm interested to see what our live viewership votes on that, yes or no. I would say this is probably me just leaning into my my priors and some confirmation bias. I would still say yes. This is a guy who was very wrong and had Kentucky number 3 in the preseason. I might have been right about Michigan, but man, was I wrong about Kentucky, and everyone was wrong about Kentucky. They do get Indiana at home in a week. You would think that they can get that win, but we'll see. They get St. John's at the CBS Sports Classic in Atlanta, or Catlanta. Those are the 2 non-conference games of note left. Got to pick those off. And then you'll have playing the SEC to uplift. But as I referenced previously, the SEC is down. So maybe that helps you because the collective talent in the league and team quality isn't as good as it was, but you'll still have lower end quad 1 opportunities, and the quad 2 games might not be as hard this season as they were last season. I think that's going to prove to be true, but it's a major, major, major issue. And to me, maybe the biggest story in the sport through the first 5 weeks of the season.
I think the point Greg made about paying too many guys is an interesting point, and something I've had other coaches talk to me about. I think we're still so early in this that anybody insisting they know how to do it, and if you don't do it this way, you're doing it the wrong way. I think that's crazy. I sort of appreciated when I was at Big 12 Media Day, Big 10 Media Day. I mean, I talked to coaches who won national championships, and they acknowledged a little uncertainty about how to program build, how to roster build, how much to use the portal, how much to use high schools, how much does roster continuity matter. We're all learning as we go. But one thing I have consistently heard from, I don't know, a handful of guys I respect is that it's cool if you got all the money and you can just go out and pay everybody, but you probably don't want 11 millionaires on your team. Like you probably, like in the NBA, it's a different deal because it's just but in college, this is all new. And when somebody signs for $800,000, they don't think they're doing that to play 11 minutes in a game. And I'm not saying that's an issue or the main issue at Kentucky, but it's got to be on the list of stuff somewhere that's causing problems because they look like a team with no heart and no chemistry. That's what they look like. The sort of the whole college cliche thing for decades has been, play for the name on the front of the jersey. And, I don't think you had to have to grow up in Big Blue Nation to care about Kentucky once you get there. Like up until a few weeks before he was getting ready to move to Kentucky, John Wall thought he was going to play college basketball in Memphis. All right. Then he went to Kentucky and he became a Kentucky legend. And I know cares deeply about that place. So the idea that you can't in the NIL era or in the transfer portal era have a roster filled with people who care about where they're at, but it does not look like that's the case at Kentucky. It looks like they spent $22 million on some talented dudes, but they don't have a basketball team and they can't shoot. 31.9% from three on the season. That now ranks like in the 230s in the country. It's a mess. And the whole SEC thing aspect of this, it can cut both ways. On one hand, you can say, listen, we're going to the SEC. And so, right now, all of our losses are good losses. I mean, they're not good. Our coach is getting booed out of the building.
They're the good teams. I know what you mean.
But they're good teams, right? So, look, it ain't like we taken a quadrant 4 loss or something like that, and we got all these opportunities in front of us, and so we're fine. Like, that's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is you can't beat anybody any good, and in the SEC, you're going to have to play a lot of teams that are good. So who are you? You better figure it out because you can think it won't get worse than it got on Friday night, but it can.
Yeah, it can. It definitely can. Also, like, the ironic thing about this roster is they don't shoot well from three. A lot of the components, a lot of the players, the way they play, not all of them, but I don't know. It feels like a John Calipari orchestrated roster in some ways to me, which is not what I expected, to be honest. We'll see if they can snap out of the funk. On the Gonzaga end,
just real quick on this to that point, then I'll jump right back out. But
okay.
As intentional as it appears Pat Kelsey built his roster to put shooters around Michael Brown, it doesn't look like that same intention was used at Kentucky. Like, okay, how are these? Like the first question, I guess, on some level is like, is this person good enough to play for us, help us? And then it's like, okay, we got these people. How do we fit them together? And at Louisville, I think Pat did an incredible job of figuring out how that fits together. At Iowa State, I think they figured out how that fits together. I know Purdue just got blasted, but I think Matt's done a great job of figuring out how things fit together. At Kentucky, it doesn't look like there was a lot of, I shouldn't even say that because like Mark's a smart guy. I'm sure there was a lot of thought.
Oh yeah, there no doubt was a lot of thought. And
I shouldn't say it that way.
Yeah, I know. Okay.
It just doesn't appear to fit together well. So maybe the thought was incorrect.
Yeah, and this is just, you're going to get this every year with the X number of teams, let alone high major teams, where you're going to have a lot of inspiration and optimism in the offseason, given the pieces you got, what they did. And just not everyone can win all the games. Some teams are just not going to work. We'll see if Kentucky can actually work. I know Pope, at least I know. I got to spend some behind the scenes time with this team earlier this season. And it does seem like a group that does really like each other, with a staff that's really well connected to the group. Now, can they figure out what's going on here? Because time, from an at-large perspective, time literally is running out. Right now, Kentucky, they got time, but it's not that much time. 148 in KPI and resume strength. 148. It's better in strength of record. They're 113, and wins above bubble. They're 72. That's still well out of the NCAA tournament picture. Let's be clear, but they're going to have to really turn it around. Gonzaga, good on you. You get destroyed against Michigan, became the first team ever to lose by 30 plus against a ranked opponent. And then in the next game against a ranked opponent, win by 30 plus. No team had ever boomeranged or pendulum swung like that ever before. And what Few told me in Vegas was kind of ringing in my ears as I watched this game play out, where he was really at a loss for, who are these guys that showed up in our Gonzaga uniforms and played there? Like, I don't know those people. That's not who we are. And how we bailed on our entire game plan 10 minutes in, just weird stuff. He had never taken a loss like that. He goes, until 2 hours ago, like we were one of the 5 best teams in the country. Well, again, they look like one of the 5 best teams in the country. They rank 3rd at KenPom right now, wins over Oklahoma, Creighton, Arizona State, to be determined if any of those are going to be NCAA tournament teams, but nonetheless, they are high majors. No, they have the neutral over a good Alabama team, and now they just vaporized Kentucky, and so that's notable. We'll next see Gonzaga this weekend against a good opponent in UCLA, but we'll take that as it comes and address the Bulldogs further there. Just a very, very inspiring performance from them. I didn't want to just toss them aside when we're talking Kentucky. It is a very good sign for Gonzaga that it was able to turn around and do this. Even if Kentucky's a wounded animal, has an identity crisis, all that, whatever. You could have done that and won the game by 9. You didn't do that. You won the game 94-59, and it was a no doubt about wire to wire kind of thing. Really impressive from Few's guys.
Yeah, this is one of those, because I saw a little bit of this when I posted the top 25 and 1 on Saturday morning. It's like, yes, everybody's impressed by what the Zags did. That is one of the most respected programs in the sport. But the story was Kentucky. And so I ended up writing entirely about Kentucky, and you have some Gonzaga fans that are like, well, what about us? Like, we know who you are. We know what you did. But when the Kentucky head coach, who is also the captain of a national championship team, is getting booed off the floor in Nashville because you're beating the brains in, that's the story. Last thing on Kentucky, I'll take it away. Like, he's just points down, rebounds down, steals down, field goal percentage down, 3-point field goal percentage down. Preseason SEC player of the year feels a little RJ Davis-y in the sense that, like, you have this All-American level season. They bring you back for a big paycheck, and I don't know that one has anything to do with the other, but if he was supposed to take a step this season while Kentucky did the same, that's not happening.